that's led you to make an error,
But
even though you responded rationally.
But if you have
to the
poor
signal.
policies or laws that don't make sense,
right, which we did,
then you are facilitating irrational exuberance.
The irrational exuberance wasn't on the part of the bankers; it was on the part of the members of Congress and the policymakers and the bureaucrats and the Fed, who thought they could create this sort of permanent increase in wealth through the housing market. Their irrational exuberance created poor policies and poor signals that misled the private sector into making errors.
Okay, we got to deal with your third myth. And women in the Bahamas will find that very interesting. And Godfrey Eneas will have a question for you as well. Right. We take this final break and we'll come right back. We are here in the final segment of the platform this evening. We're talking economics. Godfrey?
Dr. Horwitz, we were talking about this meltdown. Mm-hmm. And there's a view that the meltdown became global because of the Americanization of the world.
Yeah.
And in our country, for example, if we didn't have exchange control, we would have serious problems because Bahamas take all the money and spend it in Miami.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the globalization. I mean, you're right. I mean, in one sense, what happened was we had all these fancy financial instruments that were created that trade on a global market, right? That's what Even though they stamped "Made in America," they trade globally, and the folks who bought those, I think, were thinking too. The housing prices are going to go up. U.S. has these policies supporting it, and they'll bail out Fannie and Freddie if need be, and
and everybody make money,
and everyone will make right. And so, I mean, what really unfortunate is that all of these people who made these mistakes and then lost money, now we've turned around and bailed them out, right? And so I just worry that not only have we rewarded bad behavior, we've set this horrible precedent for the future. Now, every time people start making investments that fall apart, we're going to bail them out again. And again, that's coming on the backs of the average American.
Professor Horwitz, your third myth is, from your flyer here, is the belief that women earn 75 cents for every dollar men do, and this is examined. Let me read it carefully. The third myth is the belief that women earn 75 cents for every dollar men do, is examined, and the important differences in the choices that men and women make before entering the labor market demonstrates that although that statistic is true in the aggregate, it does not show that women are discriminated against. Very long paragraph.
Yes, yeah, it's a complicated.
Very long paragraph. Yeah. But the bottom line is that it is a myth that women earn 75 cents for every dollar that men do.
Right. The myth, again, like all three of these myths, like any myth, have a sort of kernel of truth to them, right? And as you've read, right, if we look at the aggregate numbers, we can average women's income and men's income, and it comes out to about 3/4, about 75%. But so some people look at that and say, see, women are being discriminated against in labor markets. But the reality is that when we try to compare men and women who look the same in terms of their labor market characteristics, we take a man and a woman, same age, same education, same experience, same family situation, same job experience, well, all these things, and we try to look at they're identical except one male and one's female, that gap nearly disappears. It's about 1 or 2% depending.
So you are saying that women are not discriminated against?
Not in the labor market.
Not in the labor market.
So, for example, in the United States, right? We know that women tend to go into different kinds of, say, majors in college and different kinds of careers. They're more likely to go into things like teaching and nursing. Men are more likely to go, say, into engineering or computer science or something like that. Those pay differently, of course, right? And so when men and women enter the labor market, they're looking at different kinds of jobs. Or, for example, women, not surprisingly, if they're more responsible for child care at home, are more likely to want a job that has flexible hours or has more opportunity for part-time work. where we see often discrimination, or at least where we see men and women being treated differently in a way that's problematic, is frequently women are told, oh, well, you'll never make it as an engineer or a mathematician or something. You should do this instead. That's a problem, okay? But what I'm arguing is that labor markets pay people according to their skills and their experience and so on. In and of itself, gender doesn't matter.
But that is the issue.
Yeah.
From the point of view that women are now the majority in most universities.
Yes.
So they're going to be better trained and have a higher earning power.
Right, but there will be more women with college degrees. That's true, and that helps, okay? But if women continue to choose degrees in fields that don't pay as well as the fields that men are choosing to get their degrees in, right, that gap won't close, right? If we really want a world where men and women in the aggregate got paid exactly the same amount, we need to have the same number of male engineers as female engineers and same number of male nurses as female nurses. Now, whatever the reasons are that men and women choose to go into different areas, whether it's socialization or whether some people think it's, there's a biological basis for whatever that might be, that's the reality that has to be confronted. Once people make those choices, markets reward them by their skills and their abilities and their preferences.
Isn't it socialization? Because men have had a head start on women in the Western world, because there was a time when most women stayed at home. And men went out into the marketplace and got the training and the education, and they were able to earn more. And women have just not caught up.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. And one of the things we do see is that 75 number when I was younger used to be 66 or 68. So even, on average, right, that gap is closed.